Hey everybody, welcome to Readers That Write. Today we're going to be talking about something that's been on my mind a lot this month when it comes to book launches. Why are they important? What's going on with them? How has it changed in the last few years? And what types of things do we as authors look for in these book launch events? So stay with us after the jump and we'll dive right into it. Welcome back, everybody. So today we've got an interesting episode. I've been doing a lot of book reviews, book suggestions, things like that, and I'll have plenty more of that coming. But today I wanted to talk about something that is very important to authors in the publishing world, and that's book launches. I should say it's also very important to the fans of the books as well. So why do we even do book launches? What's the point? And why should readers care about it? So to start, book launches are one of the big driving forces to discovering new audiences and getting notoriety as an author. It's something that we see the most results from a successful book launch. And it's how we drive ourselves forward and spread out more as authors. One of the best examples of this is the book launch I was just at this last week, which is Dragonsteel. It's a convention hosted by Brandon Sanderson for his book launch. But on top of that, he works very hard to pull in other authors to the events. And it's something that I highly credit him for. He does a spectacular job with these events and goes out of his way to encourage his readers to find other authors at his events. And for example, this last year, there were 20 other authors that were at these events selling their books, getting to know people. A couple of them actually launched books as well that week. But it's a very unique experience that only he can really offer. There's only been a few other authors in history that could have done this, and only one that did. Robert Jordan's JordanCon, was one of the first experiments in this type of book launch. And it saw wild success as well, but many other authors have tried this and have failed. And that tends to be A, their notoriety, and B, their relationship with their community. Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson both have very unique community relationships for authors. They interacted with and got to know their community on an entirely different level, so that their community was encouraged to ask questions about their books and talk about their books. And they were almost extroverted when it came to their books, even though both of them were famously introverts. I say were because Robert Jordan has passed, Brandon Sanderson has not. But it's something that a lot of authors strive for and question, especially after 2020. I actually had the misfortune of launching my book in April of 2020. So my book launch events were canceled on me. And it directly affected my sales for years until I was able to get on social media and start to get some connections and get found by people. My initial launch struggled hard. And it's something that made me look back at the importance of those events and try and figure out how to do them right. I know most authors, including myself, have done most of their book launches at bookstores. And traditionally, this used to be a very good way to do things. A lot of these events have long histories of success where you being at a bookstore that sells a large portion of your genre allows you to meet new people and go about things in a way that promotes you effectively. That has changed, unfortunately. Partially due to the rise of Amazon and people buying books there, but more so because a lot of the larger chain bookstores and some of even the smaller bookstores have begun to do a few things that have negatively affected this. I'm not going to name any names for stores, but I have had a few bad book launches. One at a very large store and one at a smaller bookstore. For both events, the first thing they did was charge me. At an event that should be mutually profitable, charging puts an author in a weird place. And we're not charging like 10 or 15 bucks, we're talking a couple $100. And that leaves the author in a place where they have to scramble to try and even make their money back. Selling 10 to 20 books at a book launch would be a spectacular book launch. But when you're charging $200 to $400 to participate or to do your book launch, that requires 20 to 40 books just to be profitable. And it is extremely hard to do. On top of that, your placement inside the store for your signing is actively dependent on your notoriety as an author. So if a Brandon Sanderson or a Patrick Rothfuss were to show up to one of these larger bookstores and want to do a book signing or a book launch, they would be placed front and center where everyone can see them. There'd be banners, there'd be everything you can think of to try and pull people to that book signing. For a smaller author or an indie author like myself, we end up in the back corner, in the reading nook area. And there are almost no signs except for maybe one in the middle aisle that points in that general direction saying there's a book signing today. Your books aren't actively on display near the front. They're only back with you. And it becomes extremely difficult to sell books. At the smaller bookstore, it was pretty similar. It wasn't as drastic as that because the store was drastically smaller, but placement and signage and notoriety was almost nil. On top of that, social media presence and publication of the event are almost non-existent. Unfortunately, I have yet to experience anything where I have a true partner in one of these events, and that's been extremely frustrating. A lot of the signage and the posting and the notoriety has had to come from me. And in that result, book sales are a lot lower because I'm the one bringing my own audience, and my audience is the one who shows up, which means I sell only my new book or only the books those people haven't read instead of getting new people to that event, which provides me with an opportunity to sell my books to new people. And this has been an ongoing frustration for me, trying to figure out how to actually achieve this. I think this last book launch was the most successful on this path, although it still has a long way to go for me to get this right. But trying to place myself in a position where I can introduce myself to new people and grow my sales and my series and my audience is something that I know for a fact 90% of the authors in the industry struggle with. Same with book signings. Book signings tend to be a very one-sided event lately. This was not true even a decade ago. A decade ago, book signings were the be-all, end-all of bookstores. You would show up to a book signing as an author, and there would be balloons out front, there'd be signs, they would have posted all over the social media, there would have been little pamphlets and flyers that would have been handed out during the intervening week at the bookstore, encouraging people to come and find this new author. And all of that would happen without the author being charged. But now being charged all that money and not having any of that is extremely frustrating for authors. And it's something that I hope I can find partners that will work with me and to fix this. To be fair, I do have a few. My most recent one, this was not true. I worked with a game store and did a D&D themed event for my final book of my fantasy trilogy. And I was able to, A, not be charged. So my event was immediately profitable as soon as I sold a book. And B, I was able to put myself in front of audiences that aren't the ones I brought in. And I did get a few book sales that way. And because this was a very big test for me and for the bookstore, I think we dropped the ball on a few things. Not anyone's fault. I said, first time for everything. And you're never going to get it exactly right the first time. But it was probably the most effective thing I've been able to do up to this point, as far as book launches are concerned. Book signings. The best one I've always had is one that's unique to the state of Utah. That's Utah Authors Day on December 2nd, the first Saturday in December, which I believe this year is December 2nd. Yes, this Saturday. So this event is highly publicized by several parts of the the government of the state of Utah, and all the organizations that are involved, including the League of Utah Writers, and as well as all of the authors that are there and the bookstores. It is a very unique event. It's one of the only hyper-successful events I've had in my writing career. But that's because there's a bunch of authors in the same place at the same time, all working to sell their books in conjunction with bookstores on a weekend where people are regularly looking to buy Christmas presents. So it's something that I have thoroughly enjoyed and absolutely recommend. And if your state doesn't do it for writers, I would encourage it. Most states love this idea. It is a free PR event for the state. It's a free PR event for the Writers Guilds. It's free PR for the bookstores and the event locations like libraries. And it's something that is just a win-win across the board. I have loved this so far, and I do deeply, deeply encourage people to do it. So now, after all of that discussion, why do you care about this as a reader? That's probably the most important part. As readers, there's one thing that helps authors understand their audience and connect with their audience better than anything else. And that is these events. Social media is a close second, but at these events, you get to go be face-to-face with the author, talk to the author, get to know them, and ask them questions. I love being asked questions about my books. It lets me know that you've read it, you enjoyed it, and you want to know more. And the types of questions you ask sometimes tend to swing the story narratively or encourage me in a certain direction. For example, one of the big things I keep getting asked is about my science fiction series, and a lot of questions related to that, what the future holds. And because of that, I've pivoted from writing a lot of fantasy to writing more science fiction, because that's what my audience loves to engage in. I've also started doing some short fiction as well, so that I can introduce you guys to my writing style a little bit better. So it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool experiences I've had at these events that motivate me as a writer to be more active and be more involved. I think one of the first times I really felt like I was a true author was when I had a reader come up to me who had read my first book and said that he'd read it in an ebook. But he said he had read it with his daughter and they had both loved it. And because of that, they were there to buy the paperbacks, get them signed. And then they were going to be reading the next book in the series as well. His daughter was 11, I think, 11 or 12, right in that age range. And it was really, really cool as an author to see my book have that effect, an effect that I had growing up with my parents. I remember reading, especially with my mom, and it was really, really cool to see that I was on the other side of that now. as an author, and my books were something that were helping parents and children connect and enjoy their love of reading. And all of those little things are why these events are so important. And as a reader, you get a lot out of it too. Not only do you often get discounts on the books, you get to meet the author and learn more about what motivates them, why they're writing, and ask the questions that may be a small plot hole that hasn't been covered yet, or are things that you want to know about the books, or just get to know them and get value out of it. You also get a signed copy, often at no extra charge. But it's something that has been mutually beneficial to both the reader and the writer for a very, very long time. So, as readers, I would encourage you to check on these local bookstores, or follow your favorite author on social media, find out where these events are, and go to them. Even if you don't buy anything, just showing up and talking to the author makes a big difference. Having people there at those events makes an author not feel like they've failed. And that is honestly the most difficult time, when you start these events and there is no one there for however long it may be. And as soon as people start showing up, it goes from being probably the most stressful day in an author's life to being one that they'll remember forever. So if you have any questions or comments, let me know below. If you have suggestions on book events or locations that you've heard are really good, let me know. I always love hearing from you guys in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow us next week.